Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a good day. My name's Tony, the Ambitious Autist, and today I'm covering the third part of this series for lifetime experiences for a high functioning autistic child. We already covered the childhood elementary portion and the middle school preteen portion of this series we got going on here. So in this video, I will be going into the teenager portion, mainly focusing on the high school time frame. As always, before I start, know that all my experiences are not going to be the same as anyone or everyone else with high functioning autism, but it can be used as a reference point if anything else I tell you can correlate with y'all. Now, for those who are confused about the teenager age range, I would consider it from 14 to 17 years of age. Some would consider 14 to 18, but 18 is typically where you're going to end up going into out of high school, or you're wrapping up high school, or you're starting university or college. So that 14, 17 age range is where I'm going to end up taking it to. Now that I got that covered, let's get it rolling on to the first segment of this video, which is, well, the introduction to all this, or my main experience about it. So, the high school teenager time frame for high functioning autist is what I like to call the applying phase. Of course, what I mean by the applying stage is that you really are applying everything that you learned from both your elementary and your middle school years, whether it would be to interact with people in a meaningful way, knowing who you want to interact with, as well as realizing what your strengths and weaknesses are, as a person. In my case, when I ended up entering high school, coming off the heels of middle school, I ended up learning some things that were good from the people I knew from middle school, as friends, and some things that were bad as well. You will know a few things of my background if you watch the middle school video. Regardless of that though, with the help of friends, newfound friends I made during freshman year and beyond, I ended up cutting ties with my old friend group in order to be with my current friend group, who treated me much better than the former. Personally, I felt like I had a lot more ease with them, like I can trust them enough as a person to know where they wouldn't harm me in any way. I mean, again, as friends, they did give me some good advice and also bad advice. And I ended up giving them some back as well, of course. Give back, receive back, And it's one of the big reasons as to why I improved as a student and as a person during these years. I don't know if I would have made it this far without, the help with my friends. I didn't really feel out of place with them, so I was able to be myself to the fullest. And really, isn't that what friends are for, They're supposed to be with you and, be kind of like your safe space, second to your family, That's always a nice thing to have. I'm actually still friends with them to this day, and, they still impact me for the better. So if there's anything I can say regarding, developing yourself as a person with high functioning autism, it's that you find your group that makes you feel comfortable to go ahead and keep the friendship going, Maybe you won't find it at all during high school, but if anything, I'd say developing long-lasting relationships here while you have the chance is something to, heavily consider. As someone who didn't go through therapy during this time of my life, both in this time and my middle school portion of my life, having a stable friend group like this was really my own form of therapy, as as embarrassing as it is to admit it, both in the form of keeping my mental state and helping me develop more as a person. Trust me, I don't regret my actions in this regard one bit. In this regard, I think there is something that I would say improved during this time, and if you followed along through the entire series, you will know exactly what we're going to end up talking about. Yes, once again, we are back to social skills as a recurring topic in a high-functioning autist's life. Now, as mentioned in the previous two videos, keeping and making friends and being in good graces with your family and teachers is still something you want to go ahead and keep improving on, no doubt about it. People also change a fair bit during these years as well, as people, are maturing slowly but surely into adults. And that's one interesting to consider. These teenage years are really the last few years before you end up with taking a fair bit of responsibilities. I feel like a broken record saying this, but as mentioned in the last two videos, make sure your child interacts with classmates outside of the school by encouraging them. Again, let them learn through the different types of lives people go through. Keep letting them grow. High school for me was significantly easier to deal with, as I never really had to deal with any of the drama, that a typical, I don't like saying typical or normal, but neurotypical group that I would have with another group with my current friends. As explained previously, that might not be the same to the viewers or the children of the viewers watching, Admittedly, I was still maturing and, I acted a bit rash and disrespectful here and there. But, that's just being part of the course of being a teenager, just to be real with you, right? So on that note, keep aware of how you act around others. Because remember, at this stage of your life, you are becoming an adult. And sometimes your actions that you take during this time will impact you for better or for worse than what you might expect. Back to the topic of my friends though, I'd say that because I had such a small circle of people that I hung around with, I hang around with right now about 6 people, I'm able to cut loose here and there, playing video games, swimming, going to the movies, going out to eat with them at various restaurants, that sort of stuff, typical casual group stuff. You get what I mean? However, don't think that you can act the same way to others, such as your family, your classmates, or your teachers, as you don't know them very well. Some might react differently to how you would act than others, so keep that in mind. Of course, still be yourself, right? Rather be yourself than be someone else, like what a lot of people do in high school by mistake. Being genuine is very rare, so you do you and act upon that. That's what I think. However, speaking of high school, and yes, it's exactly what you think it is. And education is the next topic, and high school is a major part of our lives for a multitude of reasons that I'm going to go get ahead into. It's going to be really similar to the portion of it in the middle school video, which, to sum it all up for you, I'm going to go ahead and try my best on that by doing that and adding more onto it. So just to reiterate, as mentioned in the elementary and middle school videos, just like neurotypical people, high-functioning autists also have their struggles with learning in different subjects. And it's due to the fact, and because we're more amplified in terms of our brains, of how we operate, and that certain people, will be lacking in terms of reading or in terms of math, like my own experiences, as mentioned in the previous 2 videos. Of course, you should still acknowledge your children's shortcomings and find ways to help them within learning, even if it means going the extra mile between your school's administration and their teachers. If you have noticed that this sounds awfully familiar, well, you're not wrong. It's exactly the same as with the middle school video. In fact, I might have copied and pasted it. The difference comes with these parts. You had your plans in place for about, I'd say 11 years at this point in time, if you're in high school. And now comes the topic of deciding whether or not you want to have your accommodations for your university or college years. University or college might not be in everyone's cards, and I recognize that, but again, for those who have those cards in the deck, deciding whether or not you need accommodations is very important, because the learning environment there is a lot more different than what you will deal with in elementary to high school, or your public school years, or grade school years. That's pretty much how it goes, right? Perhaps you're like me and, have improved past needing extra time, a separate room, or tutoring in high school, to the point where, you can trust yourself in doing well in all subjects. Yes, even my dreaded math classes. In that regard, you don't really need to have accommodations anymore. If you do, though, make arrangements before you go into university or college. We are all different, and we need to play to our strengths and weaknesses. So knowing upon and trying our best to really act on what you need as a student in order to succeed is very integral to your success. If you've been watching these parts as they already been coming out, yes, I know I think this is the 3rd time I mentioned the joke. You already know what's coming. Yes, that's right. It is. Drum roll, please. Yup, that's right. We have the mental state you should push your child or yourself, if you're, of high school year as you're watching this, to have. If you have watched the last video on the elementary and the video on the middle school years, you probably would already know the best advice I can give you is to keep an open mind, to learn even through failure, and to keep yourself happy and positive. And then, even if we have to do a lot more effort than others to get there, if we can get to a point where we're proud of ourselves. This is the 3rd time I've mentioned it, and I just want to see if you can take that into account. All of that should be applied through the high school years. And I'm going to reiterate again, if you haven't yet learned it, you might want to go ahead and learn it now. You might want to. High school is some of the best years you will have, as some will say. I have my own opinion on that, but regardless of your opinions on it, yes, you, the viewer, we're only going to remember the good, right? About high school. And if there's one thing I should cover, it's the bad. And it's the exams that you're going to have in your junior and senior years of high school. If you know anything about high school, it's that we got college entry exams during those 2 years. And I'm talking about the SAT exams, the ACT, the TSI also counts too, but I'm not sure if your state has it. Might have an out-of-state Texas user, not sure. Those tests really require on the colleges you're going into. Anyway, that's not the point. For some, taking it is optional. And for others, it's mandatory if you want to graduate out of high school. So if you or your child haven't locked in on habits that will help you, I'm going to be very blunt. This is the last stop to do so. And look, I might have gotten lucky due to graduating high school during I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, right? The global pandemic, COVID-19 in 2021, to where I didn't need to go take an SAT or an SAT to go into college. But for the most part, things are back to pre-COVID standards. And you might have to take these 2 or 3 tests to even get out of high school. I said this once, and I'll say it again. Habits are the cornerstone of having a stable life. And the younger you learn them, the better off you are as a person. Again, I already know it's difficult for neurotypical people to get new habits, much less people with mental disabilities like autism. But if you're willing to have the people around you guide you, and you yourself are willing to follow their guidance and learn, I think, dear viewer, you're going to do fine in life. You will. Because listen, don't do what I did and slocked off for a couple of years in terms of your classes just because you can get away with a B. I got away with it. But in college, you gotta pass classes with a C or a D in order to get by. And if you don't get those good grades, that's your money or someone else's money that has to pay for not doing that. The sooner you learn to actually try, the less struggle you'll have in your higher education and work and the workplace. If you're planning to not go to college and just work out of high school, which I respect, some people do. And with that being said, that is all I have to say regarding the life of a high school student. I don't know why I brain farted there. With high functioning autism, with some helpful advice and experiences. I know I was a little blunt in this video. You all have to forgive me for that, alright? I have to be real with y'all. Now, thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe or follow me for more content. For the final installment in this series, I will be talking about the college and university experience, which is currently the experience I'm going through right now. This is Tony of the Ambitious Autist, signing off. See y'all in the next video. Take care.